Welcome to our Parent Power Hour on executive functioning skills. Today, we're really going to be focusing on multi-step directions and cognitive flexibility. We're so excited to have you all here, and this is actually our fourth and final workshop of this series. Woohoo! So we're super excited to be here with you guys today to kind of close out this big series we've had going on for the last few months. As usual, this is a come as you are Zoom. So we hope you guys are enjoying your lunch right now with us today, wherever you are, in whatever capacity. We're just happy to have you here. So let's go ahead and jump on in. Just as a quick reminder, here's the handle for our FRC YouTube channel. And this is where all of our previous sessions are held and you can refer back to. We're also working on building up a library of all of the different parent workshops that we offer here in the district. So please feel free to peruse around. There's some really awesome content in there that we're building up. And again, that handle is at Laguna Beach FRC. All right. And then a quick introduction for those of you who are new. My name is Tristan Nguyen. I'm the student support specialist over at Morro. I support students and families in all things mental health, social emotional learning, and I work to provide all different types of resources for families. And I also support at the Family Resource Center on Wednesdays. And then I'm going to go ahead and kick it off to the lovely Miss Amelia.
Hi everyone, I'm Miss Amelia. I'm the school social worker at Top of the World. Same as Tristan said, I do all things social and emotional learning. I'm a resource to parents and I also help with attendance. So I know I sent out a bunch of attendance messages this past week. So if you got one, that was me. Hi, thank you for sending your kid to school. But I'm also at the Family Resource Center 1 day a week to support families.
All right, so as we set the framework for our session today, we like to highlight the LBUSD learner profile. And this is just a set of guiding principles that we use as a district for everything that we do. And these items listed right here are the 5 outcomes that we hope that each and every student will exhibit before they leave us at graduation. All right, and then here's a quick glance at our agenda for the day. We will go over learning objectives, definitions of the subjects we're talking about, and then the strategies for success, which is the whole meat and potatoes of it all. And then having an open forum if time allows, and then closing out with final thoughts, especially as it's our last session today. Okie dokie. So here are our learning objectives. I'll let you guys go ahead and read through them as I kind of summarize. But essentially, we'll be focusing on different ways as parents that you guys can support your kids in the areas of multi-step directions, cognitive flexibility, and then how to model that for them in your everyday life activities. All right, so we're just going to go ahead and do in the kindergarten classrooms, I always go from the top and I like pat my head. We're going to do a quick review of executive functioning skills in general. So this is a really big word and it means the skills that our brain needs in order to efficiently complete tasks. There are lots of different pieces to this. It helps us to plan our emotion, or sorry, it helps us to plan, manage our emotions, focus, organize, problem solve, and much more. As we have said before, these skills are in the developmental stages during elementary school and are built in as a big part of the school and classroom learning process. So we work to sharpen these skills with students each and every day in our counseling offices as well. All right, and super quick, as you can see here, there are lots and lots of different parts of executive functioning. And sorry, in this chart right here, we've covered most of these actually already. We're going to really be focusing on that bottom row today, especially in that corner, as we've covered all of it. So, as a super quick recap, for those of you who are able to and are willing, we're going to ask you guys, since we met last time, we talked about organization and planning. What strategies have you implemented so far at home in this area that have been successful? And you can unmute or feel free to type it in the chat, and we'll just kind of review on what we talked about last time. Mhm. I know it felt like a while ago.
I know for me, it was a good recap of I always stray from my to-do list, but definitely keeps me on track. And I know that I can't hold all of that in my memory, all the million things I have to do. But something that made it easier, I used to write everything down, but I found on Google, there's a Google task list, so I can just have it right there on my computer to boom, 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 boom. And so last session was a good reminder to keep up with my to-do list.
Oh, I love that. And I know we sent home some really cool sliding to-do lists. So hopefully if you got those, they were helpful in your house. For those of you who were not present, we had a really cool takeaway that was a list, and you can find it on Amazon. But essentially you can put in your own tasks. And then once your child has completed the task, they can slide it over and it's a cute little check. That's definitely a really good strategy to use. All right. And then Yvonne said in the chat, feel free to drop your comments and questions in. Um, we are welcome learning from you during this session. So as you guys said, you guys are the experts on your own kiddos as the parents. So if you have any good strategies as we move along, please feel free to drop them below. All right. We'll go ahead and pop in. All right. So for definitions, first step, we've got cognitive flexibility. And we made sure to include the cognitive part in the front because we're not talking about stretching today as much as we love to stretch. So this is our ability to change how you think when something changes. And you may see this a lot in transitions. Big ones can be moving houses or cities or a baby being born into the family. These are big life changes. Small ones can be going from soccer practice to dinner or playtime to bedtime. So time transitions. New routines, new ideas, new rules, new challenges. The key word being here, new. So flexibility is all about the ability to adapt to change, which can be a challenge, not just for kids, but also for adults as well. Some kids are unfazed or even welcome new things, while others completely freeze in response. And like I said, each child is different. This can sometimes look like meltdowns or big reactions. You may see black and white thinking or rigidity. Other kids, it comes out as perfectionism or the inability to let things go. Socially, it can be hard to take the perspectives of other kids. And we see this a lot on the playground, and we talk about putting yourself in other people's shoes, which is a phrase I'm sure you guys have heard before. Flexibility is a common topic that runs through our offices. I know that I do a lot of role playing with kids, and we do a lot of scenarios and different possibilities on how we can solve problems. And we do a are you a rubber band or a rock? Meaning, if you're a rubber band, you can move and change, or if you're a rock, you're stuck and you're not able to change at all. All right, we can the next one. And then the next one we have is multi-step directions. And this is exactly what it sounds like. Following directions with multiple steps and making sure that they're done in the right order. And this is a common challenge in elementary school. What it looks like, we broke it down here for you on the left. It can be simple, which is two directions, medium is three, and then complex is four and up. And you can see right over here our examples. We have like simple would be color a picture, then write your name. And then so on and so forth, adding on and layering. Each direction that you place increases the cognitive demand and can grow more and more challenging for your kiddos. Some challenges you may see are difficulty remembering the steps, doing them out of order. And this is okay in some situations, but sometimes it's not, right? So this is another skill worth practicing with your kids is to decipher if you must do it in a certain way or maybe you shouldn't. And this goes back to prioritizing, which we have discussed in past sessions. Kids can get really overwhelmed and they may need excessive repetition, etc. So we see this a lot with our kids in classes, especially when they're looking to other kids for what to do, and that you may see that a lot with the littles, which is actually a great survival skill to have. But just like we mentioned, the more directions you give, the higher demand, which can often be difficult, especially for our non-auditory learners, if you're sharing a direction out loud, which we'll kind of talk about in a bit. All right. And then we've got a fun little video for you here. It's just a couple minutes, but just keep an eye out for what you hear. This is a kindergarten teacher who is giving a creative writing lesson. If I am unable to hear that. Are you guys able to hear?
No, I couldn't hear it.
You might need to open it on YouTube. I can't hear it. No. Sorry, guys. Hold on one second. We're having technical difficulties here.
When you share your screen, you might have to also to do share audio as well, and that might be the trick.
Okay. Give her another minute, and then if not, no worries. We'll.
Spread peanut butter on the other
Oh,
side.
yay! Awesome.
What? I'm going to read some of your responses on how to make a PB&J, and then I am going to copy exactly what your writing says. So the first one says, you get bread, you get peanut butter, and you get jelly. Did I make it? No. That's what it said to do. I got my bread, I got my peanut butter, and I got my jelly, so it's done. Let's try another one. Put the bread flat. All right, it's pretty flat. I feel like that's good. Spread jelly and jam on the bread. Okay, I feel like this is good so far. Spread peanut butter on the other side. Ooh, it's crunchy. Spread peanut butter on the other side. Got it. Like this? Is it ready to eat? That's what it said to do. Let's look at another one. You need to get out the bread. First I get out the bread. Get out some jelly. Perfect. Get out peanut butter too, duh. Okay, it's ready. That's what it said to do. Let's try another one. First, you must put on the jelly. Then you must put on peanut butter. Wait, I need to put it on? What? Okay, it's on. Am I done? But you told me to put it on. Like a t-shirt? So we just did a whole lesson on adding detail to our writing. Do we understand why you have to have detail? Did anybody ever mention a plate or a knife? Did we even use these? No! All I did was exactly what you told me to do. So do we see how important it is to include all of the correct steps? It's like a wonderful moisturizer. So if we were to redo this, what could our first step be? Put bread on the plate.
Grab the knife.
Grab the knife.
Then scoop
Scoop some peanut butter.
and put it on the bread.
Then put it on the bread. Okay, much better so far. Then what could my next step be?
Grab another piece of bread.
Grab another piece of bread.
And put jelly on it. No.
And put jelly on it with the knife. Okay. Now what? Who can be descriptive?
Get that piece of bread and flip it over.
Which piece of bread? The bread with
The
the...
one with the jelly.
So put the bread with the jelly and flip it onto the bread with the
Peanut butter.
peanut butter. And now we've made a...
Make sure to unmute myself. All right. So this is a super cute video. I absolutely love this one. As you saw, that teacher broke down the importance of being really specific with your directions, which is a perfect lead in into our next strategy, which is strategy number 1, where we're going to really be focusing on multi-step directions. And so that is to break it down. Like in this video, consider all of the small tasks that incorporate or that encompass into one big task We're all guilty of giving directives that are actually quite vague when you think about it. All those tasks, while they seem to be simple in your mind, actually are broken down into tons and tons of smaller tasks. So the task you have right here is start your homework, which I'm sure we say all the time. When we break it down, it's actually go grab your backpack, go sit in a quiet space, take out your Chromebook, your packet, your pencil, your notebook, all the supplies you need, write your name on your paper, get started, right? And so the task list really is endless. So, how often do we say, go get ready for bed, do your chores? Go get ready for bed is at least 10 different activities all on its own. And being mindful of what we choose to say and do when giving the instructions is really important, especially with the younger ones. Amelia and I, we were discussing this actually when we were working on this presentation. And in our own sessions, we oftentimes make that same mistake too, where we just assume we're like, oh, like, let's get started, go fill out your paper. And we realize that actually there's so many little steps and we have to take a moment, step back, and actually practice delivering the directions in a clear and direct manner to our kiddos. So it's something that we're learning every day. Go ahead and switch the slide over. So, as we continue on, just like learning to break it down, we need to be mindful of our children and their current capacity to process information. So, a kindergartner is going to look way different than a fifth grader, and it varies in between kids. And we say this quote in counseling all the time, meet them where they're at. And I encourage you actually over this winter break to take the time and notice where your kid's baseline is. And maybe they are at a simple two-step level, or maybe they're able to handle a complex 4+ level directive, and that might surprise you. So once you've kind of had a situation, maybe I have an example here like making cookies, find that baseline, you want to work to build up that learning capacity by slowly adding more steps into your directions that you give. The example I have here, the baking cookies, a simple directive would to be put in 2 cups of sugar and 2 eggs, right? And then medium would be, hey, can you put in 2 cups of sugar, 2 eggs, and a teaspoon of baking soda? And then complex would be giving them 4+ different items to put in at the same time for the mixture. And that's a lot to remember, even for adults, right? So now that we talked about the baseline and building up that capacity, let's go ahead and hop on to strategy number 2. And that's strategies to remember all of the steps that were given. So I have 6 for you here today. Remember, building up capacity does take time, and we can't expect change overnight with our kiddos. So keep working at it, and eventually they're gonna build up that capacity. So the first one I have here is to chunk it. And we do this a lot in schoolwork at school, but we're going to talk about chunking directions into smaller bite-sized pieces. So for the cookie example we just had, first put in 2 cups of sugar and 2 eggs, and then you're gonna wait. You're gonna pause, you're gonna allow that direction to be finished and done. And then you'll be like, now I want you to put in 1 teaspoon of baking soda and 4 cups of flour. And with this, I want you to play around with it. Once you've seen growth happening, go ahead and try to input that 3 direction first, then pause before adding that next piece. Next is simple and consistent language. And this is so, so important with our little ones. And I mentioned this a little bit before. Make sure that you're giving clear and direct instructions. So, for example, go take out the trash to the dumpster is much more clear and consistent as opposed to get the trash or do the trash. And I know we always talk like this because it's just how we speak and it's the normal, but take the time to be a little bit more mindful about the words that you're choosing to use and then stick to that language. So like I said, go take out the trash to the dumpster. Continue using that same phrase each and every day. And then while that might seem obvious, it doesn't always read in a kid's mind the exact task you're asking them to do. And then the third one we have here is giving mental hooks. You can use letters, but I always recommend numbers. Tie your request to a hook. Example being step 1 is to put your clothes on, and step 2 is to come downstairs and eat breakfast. And step 3 would be to pack your lunch, right? Whatever that looks like in your house, tying tasks to a hook is just a great way to keep things in order that you want them to happen. And just one more thing for the brain to latch on to remember, because they're gonna be like, oh, what was step 1? What was step 1? Oh yeah, it was to go put my clothes on, right? So that's just another thing that can tie their brain to that task. All right, and then next up, we've got our number four, and this is probably one of the most important in my mind. This is reducing cognitive overload. And that's a pretty big term, but this is kind of bringing down that demand. So this is when we're easily going to run into that meltdown territory for some of those our kiddos, right? Who feel like there's so much going on at the same time that they're just like, "Wah!" And we don't want that to happen. We want to avoid those meltdowns. So you're going to want to grab their full attention first. And this is really important. Instructions while engrossed in another activity that's going on, it's going to be one in ear, out the other. And that's the same for everybody, right? So first things first, make sure that you are making eye contact with them. Then you're going to pause for about 5 or so seconds just to ensure that you have their full attention. And this also allows their thoughts and their memories to settle before really taking on that next demand. Then you're going to take a moment to stop moving, right, during the directions. And sometimes we're moving so fast after school, you're like, oh, we're walking, we're talking, right? But stop moving, stop walking, and you'll be surprised how this can help. It's moving is taking up that brain power that they have. And, kids had a long day at school. So this is kind of really helpful just to take a breather, right? Even if it's running on in the background. So it doesn't need to be a long pause just for whatever you're doing, but making sure to lessen that cognitive demand in order to get better results from your kids. And hopefully that'll make a little bit of a difference in them remembering what you're asking. Next, we talked about in our last session a lot, and that's going to be visuals or checklists. So I'm just going to gloss over it really quickly. Not all kids are auditory learners or get their information the best that way. So some of them do need that visual reminder, and that could be in the form of a checklist, a symbol. Maybe you have a picture in your house that you can put up. Just meet them where they're at. And routines in your household that you do daily can be in the form of a checklist. Or some kids may just need like a quick little hand gesture as a reminder of the task that they were given. So instead of repeating yourself over and over, just act it out. And maybe that's wash dishes, right? And they'll catch on, hopefully. And then the last one is repeat and recall. Now, I don't want you to fall into the pattern of repeating yourself 50 times over. That's not the point. But with that cognitive overload reduced, repeating the direction 2 to 3 times and just saying it, be like, hey, I want you to go downstairs, sit down, and grab a snack, right? Make sure their attention is really locked in. Then the child must repeat back to you 2 to 3 times the direction. You're like, okay, I'm going to go downstairs, I'm going to sit at the table, and I'm going to eat a snack. And then they say it one more time to you, right? And this is what we call checking for understanding. At this point, they have demonstrated that they have at least understood what you've asked of them. Then following through is their responsibility, and hopefully it gets done. So now I'm going to go ahead and pass it on to Amelia for our next strategies on flexibility.
Yes, thank you, Tristan. Some really good tips there. I'm so excited to talk to you guys about cognitive flexibility and specifically Superflex Academy. So, what I mean by Superflex Academy, this is an engaging character-based curriculum that I often use in my sessions. It could be done individually or in a group, but it teaches children not just what to do socially, but how to think about social situations. So, how it works is there's the central character called a superflex. And so that's what the kid is envisioning themselves as. They are a superhero character representing a flexible and socially aware thinking student. So students imagine themselves as a superflex to practice positive thinking behaviors. So when they go to the Superflex Academy, they are learning about two other types of characters. Unthinkabots, which you can think of as the villains of the story, and Thinkabots, which are the heroes. And these two characters interact together, and the Thinkabots end up saving the day in various social situations. So, to go even deeper, the Unthinkabots are a team of villains that symbolize rigid and unhelpful thoughts and behaviors, like getting stuck on one idea or reacting strongly. And then the thinkables are the helpful thoughts or the strategies that support flexible, expected, or socially aware behavior. So again, think of the thinkabots as the good guy powers that help kids manage tricky situations and defeat the unthinkabots. But it's a really fun core like lesson that I like to do with kids if they're struggling with cognitive flexibility. The core concepts are flexible thinking, but a lot more. And it kind of makes sense because executive functioning, as you saw, is kind of all of these things that interact together. So it talks about flexible thinking, self-regulation, social awareness, perspective taking, and problem solving. But it's just so helpful to engage children in this curriculum to examine and their triggers for rigidity and to work to identify them as well as they can see the thinkabots are there to save the day. So I have an example on the next page. So these are like an example of the characters that you would see in the Superflex Academy. So the villain would be Rock Brain, and kids learn that Rock Brain makes people get stuck on their plan and their ideas. But on the flip side, we have our thinkable, which is Rex Flexinator. And Rex Flexinator helps students be a flexible thinker so that they don't get stuck on their own ideas. So how thinkables are used, they name what's happening internally. Like, okay, so Rock Brain is here and he's trying to, infect my mind or something like that. So I need flexible Freddy right now. And it gives students an opportunity to practice flexible thinking without shame or punishment. Whereas otherwise, as parents, you might be trying to give them the logic as to why they need to go this route versus another, or why we need to stick to this plan instead of their plan. And sometimes we can get lost in those conversations because then it starts turning into discipline. But Superflex is really helpful because it externalizes these characters and you can think of them as a superhero and they're just trying to defeat the unthinkabots. So within the curriculum, you'll hear language such as what thinkable could help you right now, what thinkable could defeat the unthinkable. Let's practice using a thinkable before the problem gets too big. But it really helps reduce the defensiveness and shame, and it gives kids concrete tools rather than just rules to follow. And so overall, in one sentence, I would say that the Superflex really helps kids teach a different approach to thinking and helps them feel empowered in solving their problems, as well as recognize, okay, maybe I'm a rock brain right now. Maybe I'm being a mean gene. Maybe I'm being all about me. And so I need to use my strategies in order to defeat the villain in the story. So it's a full curriculum that you have to purchase. But I have some free resources that I can share with you, as well as the link if you want to purchase the full curriculum. But has visuals and everything, and it's really fun, and kids love to learn about it, and they feel really empowered. Like, I'm gonna defeat the rock brain, and I know what strategies I need to use. It's very engaging, and it's kid-like language, so it really helps to get the message across. So next I want to talk about creating opportunities for flexibility. So these are some simple things that you can do day to day. We always talk about how the most important way to practice these skills is to model them and just create opportunities naturally, and then praise, praise, praise when we see our kid doing something right. So some examples of this could be rule switching games. So playing a game like red light, green light, where you have to think on the spot, or Simon Says, or it could be games with some sort of strategy shift like chess or Connect Four. It when games switch the rules, it forces the adoption of new rules and kind of sneaks in a very fun way. And overall just strengthens problem solving and shifting thought, which is that flexibility we want to see. We want to see that they're thinking of new opportunities. Maybe they thought they were going to get Connect Four, but you blocked them. And so they're going to have to think of a different way. But in a more real life scenario, I know in my household, we had assigned seating, whether it was in the car or the couch or the dinner table. It was like, oh, dad always sits there. I always sit to the right. My sister sits to the left. Like, I feel like every family has those unspoken rules. So one way that you can practice flexibility is something as simple as just changing routes on your way home from work or on the way to soccer practice. Or like I said, it could be switching up the seating arrangement. It just shows that there's multiple ways of doing things. And teachers practice this all the time. They change the seating arrangements in class. I know that was something that kids would look forward to, and sometimes it was a bummer, but we learned to adjust to these new predicaments, right? So I'll use this in my therapy office. Sometimes I'll switch the rules of the game because kids actually test my flexibility, and kids love to make up rules that benefit them. So I'll do the same thing and I'll be like, actually, new rule, if it lands on red, then, I get an extra sticker. And so I kind of play along with them when they start to change up the rules. But one of my favorite games is Uno Flip. There's so many variations of Uno, but this one's called Uno Flip. And there's like a black side to the deck and then a white side to the deck. And there's a card that you play that says, okay, now it's time to flip the deck. And so Uno in and of itself is unpredictable. You think you're going to win and then you get a draw four. But the aspect of having a flip in there is even more like challenging flexibility. And trust me, kids are very hesitant about the game at first. They're like, what the heck is this? Why are there two sides of the deck? I'm confused. But after some time, they really start to enjoy it. And then that's when we just want to, again, praise, like, oh, you are being so flexible. I love how flexible you are. Or we're just making it fun. Okay, now we're on the white side of the deck. Like, how interesting. Like, I wonder what cards we're going to get on the white side of the deck. So, by playing games and modeling it for your kids, that's a great opportunity in the natural setting to practice flexibility. And I'm sure a lot of you are already doing it. And so give yourself credit where credit's due. You're probably practicing flexibility right now. Okay, and lastly, strategy five, I really want to touch on the relationship between emotional regulation and flexibility. I want you to consider that when we are facing a child who might be extremely rigid, it might be wise to look into the role that anxiety plays in rigid thinking styles. When kids feel uncertain or unsafe, their brain will grab to one plan, one outcome, one rule because it feels protective. So, of course, there are different strategies that we've talked about today that can teach flexibility. But if you notice that your child's having a particularly hard time, there might be a deeper need that needs to be met. And so here's some strategies for you to consider that can help with that. Um, we're not going to force flexible thinking in the middle of a tantrum, but when you capture moments where they have calmly adjusted or engaged in flexibility, maybe the plan didn't go as they thought, and so we had to choose something else. We are going to pour on the affirmations and the praise and just validate them as well. So you can say things like, your brain noticed a change and you handled it. Or you let somebody else choose what we were going to have for dinner, and I really appreciate that. And affirmation in the moment of anxiety could look like just getting on your kid's level and speaking to them very gently and just saying, I see you. It seems like your brain is worried that something won't go the way that you're expected. Or this feels really hard because your plan feels really important right now. We're simply just acknowledging that they might be having a certain way of thinking and that, like, I see you and I know that it's really hard to get past it, but I'm sitting here with you in the discomfort. So affirmations can go a long way. Because when we're affirming, we're naming the anxiety, and this is helpful because it validates the emotion, it lowers shame, it prevents the power struggle. But I would say when it comes to affirming or just validating their emotion, avoid using harsh language like you're being inflexible or you just have to let it go. I know it can be frustrating when our kids are really, really stuck on one plan, but just if you keep repeating it as many times as you need to, saying, I know you're disappointed. I know you wanted it to go a different way. Eventually, it's just gonna calm down those big emotions. Another way that you can encourage flexibility along with emotional regulation is offering choices. So when anxious brains freeze, the options feel infinite and it's very hard to choose. So it can be as simple as saying, do you want plan A or plan B? Do you want to try this or try that? Or do you want to try my way first or should we do your way first? And even holding out your hand so they can press your hand on which one they would like to just reduce the amount of effort that it takes for them to think can be really helpful. Just even having two choices restores a sense of control, which reduces rigidity. We talked about, in and of itself, regulation strategies. So when we regulate the body before the brain, it helps with cognitive flexibility because we can't be flexible when our body's dysregulated. Some quick regulation strategies are wall push-ups. I like to do that with students, or even legs up the wall. It forces the blood to go down your legs to your stomach and your heart and your brain, which can be very soothing for kids. If your kids love physical touch, giving them a big bear hug and squeezing, a lot of deep pressure. And the message here is that let's help your body and your brain feel safe first, and then we'll solve the problem. Another thing that helps that I use all the time with my students is size of the problem. Anxiety will often make the problems feel huge, and then the rigidity increases. So, by teaching your kids or just reminding them, is this a big problem, a medium problem, or a small problem? Or what's the smallest part of the problem that we can start with? Breaking things down reduces the brain's need to control everything, and it allows us to be flexible. I think that kids are really sweet and they want the help and they want the support, but sometimes I see this all the time. I know Tristan, you can probably relate. They're like chasing me down, like, Miss Amelia, it's an emergency. Like something happened. I'm like, oh, what happened? And they're like, somebody stole my glue stick. And I'm like, okay, I can work with that, but I wouldn't say it's an emergency. And so having them break down, like, okay, sometimes they'll be very rigid because they're like, I need to talk to you right now, or we need to get to the bottom of this. I validate. I say, of course, I know your glue stick's missing and I'm dedicated to helping you with this. But I also have 5 other students to meet with. So is this a big problem, medium problem, or little problem? And then they're being like, you know what? It's actually a little problem. Now that I've talked it out, I can talk to my teacher about it. Or maybe I misplaced my glue stick. It just helps them to think about the options so that way they can choose a different path or just kind of soothe down that anxiety, which helps them be a flexible thinker on their own. And then lastly, I have this and that thinking. So when we're a rigid thinker, we often think in either or, like I'm tired and I can't, work, or if I'm in a bad mood, then my whole day is done, or just because I messed up on this part, then I'm a failure. So we want to teach this and that thinking. So you can teach kids that they're mad, but they can still try, or they don't like this, but I can handle it. It builds emotional complexity and reduces the all or nothing thinking. So that way they can see, okay, there actually are options available for me. I can go a different route, or I can problem solve my way through this, which can be helpful in the long run. And lastly, I just want to tie it in because our first session that we did was on emotional regulation and just self-control, regulating our emotions, all of that stuff. So I want to, it kind of came full circle, and I want to promote our YouTube channel again because if you feel like the emotional regulation piece is really impacting your child's ability to be flexible, then it could be worth revisiting that on our YouTube channel and get some tips because, yeah, same thing with like our kid can't learn if we're dysregulated or if we're cranky or if we haven't slept and ate. So it's same thing with our thinking. We're not able to be a flexible thinker if our emotions are at an all-time high. So tuning into that will in and of itself help with emotional regulation will help with cognitive flexibility. Okay, and as we close out this series, I know we always give you something to take home. So please keep an eye out. We are documenting all of the participants that were here today. We have your emails, and we will send you a resource guide within your email box of all of the things that we've talked about through our series. We'll add in some of the superflex language that we've talked about and the strategies that Tristan has. But that way you are having a list of different recommendations or curriculum that we use, books that could be helpful, and just overall bits of knowledge that will help support you at home. So keep an eye out for that. We're going to be compiling it, and I hope you find it helpful. Okay, so we have some time for a parent share out. I feel like we are stronger together, we learn together, and this is a collaboration. Me and Tristan have a lot of skills, but parents will put me on to things that have worked in their house too that I will use in sessions. So I want to ask you guys whether you want to unmute or if you want to share it in the chat. What are some strategies that you have used in your home to improve flexibility and multi-step directions? What has worked for your family or what has not worked? I would love to hear. And
I'll go
for
off mute
parents.
and share. Oh,
Oh yeah,
sorry.
sure. Thank you, Vivian.
Um, so this I don't know if it's really flexibility, but it like when I try to get my kids to clean, I'm like rattling off like 10 things for them to clean. And it's super annoying because they'll clean one thing and then they'll get distracted and it's like, okay, like you still need to pick up your backpack and what about your sweater? And then those pens don't belong there and it's just like a huge long list. And so like one day we've only tried it once, but it was like a magical hit with my fifth grader. And so we were like, okay, we're gonna count. There are 10 things in this room that needs to be cleaned right now. And he like loved it. Like he was like, okay, this one and that one. It was like a total like scavenger hunt game. And so it was like magical and I'll need to utilize it more, but it was like totally changed how cleaning a room could become.
I love that. We gamified it and also it got them to think on their own. I think parents are so tired, like, I just wish they would listen to me the first time, or why can't they just look at their surroundings and know what needs to be done? So you basically were saying that, but gamified it. Like, I spy with my little eye 10 things that need to be picked up. And so it leaves them open to investigate. And I love that. I'm glad that that's been successful with you. Stephanie, thank you for sharing in the chat. She said, sometimes we have our kiddos repeat multi-step directions back, so it helps with the stickiness of the instructions. Absolutely. Checking for understanding every single time. I see teachers do that all the time. They'll have a PowerPoint of the instructions, they'll go over a worksheet and they'll say, okay, there were it's kind of the same thing as you, Vivian. Like there were three things that I needed you to remember. Can we say it back can you say it back to me? Raise your hand if you know. And that's like a call and answer and they're making sure that they're all following on the same page. Nice. Okay. Anything else? It's tough to be a flexible thinker. I think even I get stuck in that too. Sometimes I can have a rock brain.
I know, me
Oh, maybe
too.
that's I forgot to mention that, but if you do the Superflex Academy, relate to your child and just be like, I think the rock brain is infecting my brain too. Like the more you can model it, that it's not just something you're going through, like everyone can sometimes engage in inflexible thinking. And these are the unthinkables that are infecting my brain right now. It can be helpful to put it together. Okay.
Awesome.
Hey, I think that's it. We might be um ending a little early this today, but we'll stick around for a few more minutes. We are opening it up to a Q&A, so feel free to send any questions that you have in the chat, and we will share some thoughtful responses with you. If it's something that needs a little bit more attention, please email us directly. That way we can have like a one-on-one talk. But yeah, let us know if you have any questions. We're here to assist you.
Yeah, and like we said, we work with students all day long, all the time. So if you have any concerns about your own personal kiddo, please feel free to reach out to either of us. I think on the next slide is our contact information. So I'd be the point of contact person for El Morro kiddos. Miss Amelia would be for Top of the World. And then if there's any outside resources as well that you guys were looking for, the Family Resource Center is a great place to go. But yeah, we're absolutely happy, sorry, to problem solve with you guys about any of the concerns that you may be seeing about your own specific kid at home as well.
Mhm. And so this concludes our four-part series for executive functioning specifically, but I'd love to hear from you. You can unmute or write it in the chat. We're always wanting to hear from parents of what they want to learn about. So what are some additional session topics that you guys would be interested in? We'd love to hear from you. What are some obstacles you're going through as a parent that you feel like you would want a parent series on or a parent workshop?
Ooh, Stephanie, I love that. We see this a lot in our office as well. Social adaptability. So when a friend doesn't want to play, or when someone is doing something they shouldn't, and kids wanting to correct, how to be flexible in friendship. That's a really good one.
Ooh, I like that, Stephanie. The Superflex curriculum would be great for that because they have some characters. I forget the exact name, but there is a character that says this person is very particular about the rules and has to keep reminding kids to follow through with them, which can sometimes come off as bossy or something like that. So that would be a good character to introduce. I'll have to find the sheet of the villains, the Unthinkabots, and send it to you because I think that could be helpful. And it's kind of like social skills too, like peer conflict, how to navigate that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let us know in the chat if anyone else has any suggestions. But otherwise, I think that concludes our session. So if you have any questions, stick around or you can email us. But thank you all for joining today. We really appreciate your time and energy and just hearing from you and seeing your names and familiar faces pop up. So thank you all for joining.